What's up, everybody? Welcome to the very first episode of the Chicago Dons podcast. I'm Eli Cruz, joined by my right hand, Wyatt Walkington.
That's right.
We're going to be talking Chicago Bears football, some news and notes around the NFL, and give you some early predictions for Week 4. Wyatt, let's jump right into it. Chicago Bears took on Lovie Smith's Houston Texans last Sunday. Came out on top with a Cairo Santos, little chiropractor, putting us over the edge with a game-winning field goal. Bears moved to 2-1 on the year, traveled to the New York Football Giants next week for a noon game. How are we feeling about the tied for division lead Chicago Bears, Wyatt?
It hasn't been pretty, right? We can agree. It has not been pretty. It's been kind of ugly, but honestly, it looks good. It's 2-1. We're 2-1. If we're not looking at like the game, if we're just looking at records, Bears are 2-1. With a favorable schedule coming up, and I mean, let's face it, we weren't supposed to win against the Niners, right? Everybody counted us out, besides the people who know the Bears football. But I mean, there's been some good points. I'll hit on it later. Just some highlights of the Bears, mainly coming on the defensive end. But we're 2-1. Can't complain, you know.
Doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't feel like it.
Bears beat it. Doesn't feel like it, but we are 2-1. I think we can go ahead and get into some of the key takeaways. Obviously, Bears won 23-20, taking on the Texans. Always like to see Lovie walk out of there with a loss.
Yeah.
I think the game itself, Justin Fields stood out to me. Obviously, Bears defense, Roquan coming up with a big pick late. But really, my first key takeaway from the game is the Chicago Bears can run the fucking football.
Dude, they can pound it.
They can, and I think that a lot of the time, I don't know if I feel so great about it because I feel like the league is a passing league, but I think it's a problem for the rest of the league. If you look at last week, even though we came up short against the Green Bay Packers, David Montgomery kind of imposed his will on him, I would say. Obviously, big news, David Montgomery, Matt Eberflus said it's a day-to-day injury. Yeah. He came out with a lower leg injury. I think it was just an ankle roll or some shit like that. I don't think it's anything serious. But regardless, Khalil Juice Herbert came in, 157 yards on the ground, 20 carries, 2 touchdowns. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Chicago Bears running game and mainly the guys up front, maybe the O-line, stuff like that?
Yeah, so to begin, I was a little nervous, right? You know, we're talking all season long, at least last season too, is the O-line. O-line's the issue. And then I guess we kind of somehow magically got a decent O-line. And, I mean, Justin Fields has pass protection, but we'll get to that. But for the run, I mean, they're holding it down.
Dude, 157 carries from some no-name guy. Not a no-name in my opinion, but, a lot
but
of
across the league. People who don't know the Bears.
Who wires, who the fuck dropped 30 points?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean.
With that, the Chicago Bears, when you look at their league rankings for a lot of stuff around the league, they're dead last, obviously, in passing yards, dead last in passing everything, pretty much. Defense, I think, jumped up a little bit after last game. But the Chicago Bears running game is 4th in the NFL.
That's something to be said. And if you think about it, we went against the 49ers, who have a great front seven, the Packers, who are built to win, who clearly, I mean, they stopped I'm blanking on who they've been playing, but at least against Leonard Fournette, they made Leonard Fournette look like a nobody, and he'd been able to pretty much pound the rock, especially against the Cowboys Week 1. But, I mean, the Bears have been able to do it, and even when they're down, there's something to be said about being able to run the ball in the NFL. I mean, a running back getting like 80 yards, you're like, he had a good game, but when somebody comes out Week 2, David Montgomery, 122, something like that. Week 3, Khalil Herbert, 150. Like, I mean, they're running the football.
I think it makes a huge statement on game control, game management.
Yeah.
But I also want to touch on that because as much as I want to say the Bears can control a game and know how to work the clock in an NFL football game, what the hell is up with the 3 timeouts going into the half? Matt Eberflus, I think he had said, it was a 3rd and 1. Personnel change. We're putting in new guys, taking guys off the field. regardless of what's going on, are you using the timeouts there and trying to make a drive out of something, get a field goal maybe? What is the thought process behind that?
It has to be. Because they were down at the point, right? We were down 2-1, 3, something like that. I think it was like
we were down. I think we were down 17-14 or
something like that. I think it was something like that where you're going in a half and we get the ball, I believe. I can't remember right now, but either way,
no, we kicked the ball to start the second half. So that's an even more reason as to why I don't understand why they don't call timeouts.
Yeah, I don't get it.
But anyways, I think that what you kind of said, the O-line isn't as bad as we thought.
No, it's really not. They've been looking really
good.
It's
really not. I mean, there's certain like things if you really want to get so nitpicky and like look at certain blocking schemes and how they could have done better. But overall, if you got running backs at 100+ yards back-to-back games, the O-line's doing something right.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, what do you think that means for the Bears draft? Do we maybe go, because obviously looking at a lot of the, Bears media around this year, it's a rebuild year. It's what everybody's jamming down Chicago's throat. And, we're jamming it down everybody else's throat. So maybe it's not a rebuild year. Maybe it's a year we go and get a guy in free agency. Maybe it's a year, we do work on the offensive line, the guys that we got in-house, and maybe build out that receiving core and other pieces of the team through the draft in 2023. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we've done a good job defensively in the draft. We'll get to that again in a little bit. But offensively, I mean, we have Khalil Herbert, Tristan Ebner look decent running the football, and David Montgomery. I think David Montgomery's contract's up, but we don't need running backs right now. Justin Fields, I mean, we took a high pick. We might as well try to see where this goes. But offensively, I think it leaves us with receivers and the offensive line. Maybe find a position or find a guy who's good in multiple spots, either tackle or guard, and maybe get him and then go receiver heavy, tight end, because clearly Cole Kmet's not it. I'm not a huge drafter on tight ends, but let's at least get another weapon for Fields, a receiver, and I think go get one, because if we can keep this offensive line going, it's going to be enticing for free agency, especially for like a receiver thinking about switching places, that he can at least have someone to get the ball to. So we'll see.
I agree. I think when I was watching the game, some of those third down plays, it really shows that Fields doesn't have a go-to guy on third down and the receiving core, a guy that can really get open, like a Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, one of those guys. And I think maybe that's something we can either trade for. And here's a thought, just something I read online here. We got a guy that's a backup running back dropping 157 yards, 2 touchdowns against, obviously, the Texans. But, the run game looked good. I believe he scored against the Niners as well.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on maybe getting rid of the David Montgomery contract and having Khalil Herbert become a number one back in Chicago?
Dude, I'm glad you actually said that, because I saw a crazy stat before this. So, Khalil Herbert has 9 rushes this season that have gone for 10 or more yards. That's second in the NFL. He's only behind Nick Chubb, who has 10. And not only that, but Khalil Herbert also only has 33 rushes this year. 9 of them have gone for 10+. It could be like a off-speed running back kind of thing, Other teams.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the guys we played last week. I think Khalil Herbert takes on more of an Aaron Jones type player.
Yeah.
And David Montgomery looks more like a A.J. Dillon type of guy that works in between the 20s, can pound a rock. But I think more explosive. I mean, look at the 52-yard run by him last weekend.
Yeah.
Khalil Herbert might be the guy moving forward in Chicago. And as much as I really understand me, or whatever the fuck his name is on Instagram. I think Khalil Juice Herbert might be the guy.
Yeah, I do too.
Obviously it's good to start out with a positive. Let's get into what we all really want to talk about here. Fields' decision-making. Do you still trust Justin Fields moving forward?
I do. And here's why. All right. Year 1, different offense. Let's forget about the Matt Nagy era. He's thrown into a sticky situation. It just wasn't ideal. No offensive line. Now he has a defensive-minded head coach, and clearly we want to run the ball. To go along with that, we just talked about it. He has no options. Like on third down, who's he going to? The pass protection has been pretty good, but And I know there's people saying, his decision making isn't all that good, which I agree, but that comes with time. You know what I mean? It's going to come. I hope it should, but also it doesn't help not having a guy who, the Mike Evans, the Stephon Diggs, the Tyreek Hills, the Cooper Kupps of the league. We don't have that. We don't even have like some of those guys' backups. Nothing against our receiving core, but it's true.
Yeah, I think Mooney, as great as he is, I think he's more of a wide receiver too, maybe even a slot guy or somebody on the edge. I don't really view him as a wide receiver one in the league. I think, obviously just being a Bears fan, I like to think that he is, right. But talent, speaks larger. So I agree with you, though. I think Bears fans, in a way, when we went after Fields and we drafted a quarterback early that, I think our franchise and our organization and the fan base behind it jumped on and jumped behind. We got to be more patient. We had Matt Nagy. Yeah. We had Ryan Poles. Not Ryan Poles, the other Ryan in the front office. Yeah. We got a whole new regime in here that believes in Justin Fields. So I think it's almost like we have to take that first year out the window. Obviously, Fields isn't developing as quickly as we'd like, but I think it's hugely because he's had so many changes. I mean, if you look at, I think what would accurately kind of evaluate Justin Fields is this year. I think he still deserves the entire season. Like I said, he's in a new offense, and Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, some of these guys have played 16 games. Justin Fields last weekend was his 15th start in an NFL game. So, I think even if you look at last year too, some of those guys, this time, around late September, you can look at Joe Burrow. He was being questioned on his ability to lead the Bengals. Look what happened there. Super Bowl, obviously they came short. Obviously we have our own opinions about if the Bengals really deserve to be there. Jalen Hurts, I think last year this time he was seen as just a good runner in Philly. And if you look at Tua Tagovailoa, he was about to get shipped off for a guy that was getting handies in a massage parlor. So, I think the point is writing off Fields at this point in his career is way too early.
Yeah.
But I don't think we can discredit the fact that we need to see some improvement throughout the year.
No, I definitely, you hit on some good points. I mean, it's true. There's a real difference between, especially quarterbacks in the NFL and college. You can dominate in college. We've seen it over and over. Guy dominates, comes into the league, and just doesn't pan out. Fields has it, though. It's turned into a mobile quarterback league as well, and we got him there. He's shown that he can get out of the pocket. I do like how he's been hanging in there a little bit more and going through his reads, but it's going to get better. It will.
I think that's a part of, too, like a lot of those mistakes we see are correctable. Yeah. I think especially some of those throws he had, that's stuff where you can look at film and kind of see how defensive change, see how, looking at your other reads without your progression or throughout your progression. Mm-hmm. I think those are all correctable mistakes, and I hope that, I was on Instagram the other day and I saw Justin Fields doing sprints at like 8 o'clock out in his house out in I forget where it is, but one of the Chicago suburbs. And hopefully he went home from the game, got a dub, but went right to the film room, and that's what I think quarterback needs to be doing nowadays. Yeah. Regardless, I don't think Mitch Trubisky was the type of guy to do that. I wouldn't know because he would never speak up. But I think Justin Fields, too, kind of has that leadership mentality where he'll speak up. He'll say, hey, I had a bad game, but, we're fortunate enough to come with a win.
Social on the lead.